Public Health England conducted a study on e-cigarettes, and they found some really promising results. They say the following, quote, "E-cigarettes should be prescribed to smokers to help them quit the habit. Vaping, which is what it's called, electronic cigarettes, was 95% less dangerous than smoking traditional tobacco cigarettes. The battery-powered devices, which simulate the feeling of smoking but with nicotine inhaled in a vapor, could be a game-changer in public health, according to the study co-author Professor Anne McNeill of King's College London. Smoking is the leading cause of preventable deaths in England, accounting for over 80,000 a year, according to the National Health Service. So to give you some more numbers on that, listen to this, man. In the U.S., tobacco kills over 400,000 people every single year. That's amazing. Imagine for a second if terrorists killed that many people in America. We would invade roughly 60 countries. But when it's tobacco that kills 400,000, we're like, oh, what? It happens over time? Well, then I guess we shouldn't care about it. No, you should still probably care about it. And in the world, so worldwide, tobacco kills 6 million people annually. 6 million. Now, you guys know me. I'm not in favor. I hate bans. Bans, I think, should be rarely implemented, in my opinion. But I do like efficient, intelligent regulation. So, if we're talking about cigarettes, should the government ban some of the hundreds of chemicals that are in cigarettes that are carcinogenic? Yes! Yes, they should! You should make them, less dangerous as you can, given what they are. And then it should be all the individual's choice. If they want to kill themselves, go ahead, you can kill yourself. But at least let's have some rational, rules in place which make it so that the worst of the carcinogens aren't in the cigarettes and you don't die at age 36 or something like that. Okay, so now that that's clear, let's dig into this e-cigarette issue a little further here because there's a lot to discuss. So, I've seen other studies that say, no, they're just as bad. Now, I'm always skeptical of those studies because usually who's funding it on the low? Probably a cigarette company. That's like, don't worry, don't do the electric ones, still buy ours because we make money off of it. So I do think it's the case that those are probably more likely to be fudged. In this case, like I told you, it's Public Health England. It's a government body that did the study, and they're like, no, it is better. Now, that doesn't mean that they're perfect because, for example, there's some questions that arise as to exactly how the vapor is produced and how it mixes with oftentimes the plastic that's used in the casing for the cigarette. And, I don't know if it was formaldehyde or something else that is created in low quantities in some of these e-cigarettes. And so there are still issues, no question about it. But at face value, just using logic here, if you look at what's in cigarettes versus what's in e-cigarettes, there's no doubt e-cigarettes are significantly better for you. Doesn't mean they're good for you. Doesn't mean there aren't some downsides. It just means they're better for you. By the way, another thing they say, some of them are poorly made and they've exploded. Gotta fix that problem. And now it's super, super rare. 0.0000001% of them have exploded. But still, it's an issue and it should be addressed because people are going to be like, oh, I don't want to buy it. Maybe it'll happen to me. So, they say 95%, man. 95% less dangerous because all you have in the e-cigarette is the vapor and nicotine. Now, nicotine, some people think that's a carcinogen. Wrong. It's actually not true that nicotine is a carcinogen. There are some studies that say nicotine has positive effects. It's like a little bit of a stimulant, and it gives you a little jolt of energy, and some people think better as when they take a little bit of nicotine. So nicotine isn't the problem with cigarettes. It's the other however many 800, 900 chemicals that are part of it that are carcinogenic. The tar and all the nonsense, the chemicals that are put in it after the fact. So that's the problem with the cigarettes. So at face value alone, you have the cigarettes with hundreds of chemicals and the nicotine and the tobacco. That's really fucking bad for you, and the evidence is there. For e-cigarettes, the jury's still out, and at face value, it appears as if it really can't be worse. It can certainly be better, even according to this study, because there's just not as much shit in the thing that you're smoking. And finally, let me just say this. I used e-cigarettes. It actually worked for me. Now, the funny thing is, when I started using them, I didn't use them I wasn't planning on smoking e-cigarettes specifically to quit. I just thought, let me smoke e-cigarettes instead, because it appears like they're slightly better than cigarettes. And what happened? So I smoked for I don't even know how long, maybe 5-6 years of my life, something like that. Then I switched to e-cigarettes. And what happened is I used them for maybe 4 or 5 months, and I just got too lazy to keep going to buy them. So I don't buy cigarettes, and I don't buy e-cigarettes anymore. And I don't smoke anymore. So I'm actually a success story, and e-cigarettes really did help me. Now, some people it's not going to work, and some people are different than me. No denying that. But I always said that when I smoked an e-cigarette, it gave me, 60 to 80% of the sensation that I needed, or that I thought I needed at the time, from a normal cigarette. So it quelled the sensation and the urge just enough for me to say, oh, I don't need a cigarette, I can just smoke the e-cigarette. And still, every once in a while, rarely I'd have a regular cigarette when I was smoking the e-cigarette, but they became fewer and far between, and then it was purely the e-cigarette, and then I was done completely with all of it. So this study says, yes, they're better, use them. My anecdotal personal story is, yes, they're better, I used it, and I accidentally quit, right? So my overall takeaway, on the question is, if you're considering using e-cigarettes to then try and quit, or you're just considering switching from cigarettes to e-cigarettes and staying with e-cigarettes, I would say absolutely do it. It's certainly not nearly as dangerous or bad for you as regular cigarettes.